Boom, Warren, it's cover 2 time. We're back. It's been a little bit. It's been a minute. We've been on trips. We came back. Then it felt like, man, just things happened. And then I got sick. But now we're back. And you know what? The 49ers continue to win the longest winning streak in the entire league at 5 games. But lots of question marks as well. I think this is going to be a fun conversation.
Absolutely, man. It's first of all, man, it's great to be back. I mean, like you said, it's been a while, holidays, trips, and feeling under the weather, stuff like that. But I mean, as long as the Niners still win, I mean, we can endure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Dolphins did. That's the kind of, just absolutely overwhelmed. That's how I was. I was
Yeah.
overwhelmed with illness. The Dolphins were overwhelmed with the 49ers defense.
Right.
What a spectacular performance by the defense in this game. I thought that, of course, you had the Trent Sherfield, touchdown to start the game, which I think caught everyone off guard. It was a misplay by Talanoa Hufanga. They're adjusting between 2 coverages because of Tyreek Hill's motion, and he over-adjusted. Charvarius Ward went back to the original coverage like he's supposed to. You don't get that from Hufanga, and then, you get a poor attempt from Tashawn Gibson to make the tackle because he's at a wrong angle, and you get a big touchdown for Trent Sherfield. I thought that it was an interesting way to start the game. What were your thoughts when that happened at the beginning of the game and you see Miami score in 10 seconds?
I thought, here we go. Because, I mean, if you watch that Miami team, that's probably the most explosive team in the league. And so when you hit a play like that to open the game, you're just like,
yeah,
this might feel like a little bit like the Chiefs game, So I was definitely scared to begin the game. I just didn't know how it would go. But the way the defense rebounded, beautifully.
Yeah, it was a quick adjustment. And I think a lot of that has to go with the 49ers offense goes out there and no, they don't get a touchdown, but they moved right down the field. It was like boom, boom, boom. Jimmy hit Christian McCaffrey on the wheel route, a pass that he had missed the week before. He makes the throw. And it's like, yeah, the drive stalled. We got a field goal, and it kind of felt like, okay, we're in this game, right? We landed a jab. We landed a couple of shots. You may have hit us with a big hook, but here we are. And I thought the defense coming out and shutting them down on the next drive really changed things. It could have went bad, though. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't come in.
Right.
It was Brock Purdy. But, this 49ers team is so resilient. And whenever you have a caliber of defense like the 49ers have, you're always have an opportunity to win.
Man, that's the truth. I mean, the way this defense is playing this year is it's at a historic level. I mean, it's no small task to go up against this Miami team. I mean, when you got Waddle and you have Tyreek and you have the speed that you have with that offense with Mostert in the backfield to come out and shut that team out, like the running game was non-existent.
Yeah.
Like the linebackers are lights out. I mean, they are just the linebacker play we're getting right now is it's crazy because, we had Patrick Willis, we had Navarro Bowman, and like going back and watching the film on them, you're just like, man, like they were special. But this unit we have now, it's special. It's like you could really compare the 2 eras, like which one was really better. But just the play of the defense from all 3 levels and Nick Bosa to everybody, they put on a show defensively to stop that offense. And Mike McDaniel's, like that Miami team, almost you could call them San Francisco B with all the ex-Niner players on that team.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They came into this game with their hairs on fire, expectations to try to run it up on us. But the way the defense showed up and showed out was amazing.
It was, and you've got some people trying to put little holes in the 49ers, performance. You got Chris Sims coming out and saying that there was lots of open receivers and that it wasn't really the 49ers defense, but it was lack of execution, by Tua Tagovailoa. But I watched the film and I've seen what happened. And really what happened was plays like Fred Warner tipping that ball away over the middle of the field caused Tua to believe he needed to get the ball over the top. It was layered throws that were difficult for him to make, and that was because the 49ers linebackers underneath were getting the deep enough drop to make him feel that way, or Talanoa Hufanga was sitting in those zones and making him throw over the top. Those layered throws are not easy. If you throw it at too much of a line, it's an interception. It's going back the other way, and if you sail it too much, it ends up being an interception because it floated over the top. I thought they put enough pressure on him as well. I thought it was a smart, very educated performance coming from D'Amico Ryans in that defense. And I think they proved again that it doesn't matter exactly what kind of offense you have. We're going to find a way to slow you down and be able to, give our offense an opportunity to win. I thought the defense did so good, and Eric Armstead coming back was a huge reason why.
It was, and they were getting pressure all day. But just to add on to what you said, I mean, the linebackers control the middle of the field, and that's what was huge going into this game. Because if you watch Miami in their previous games, they hit those slants, and like you see earlier in the game, Sherfield hit that quick pass and he took it to the house. And they have the speed to do that. They have the speed out wide to exploit you like that. And so it was vital to control the middle of the field like that. And Tua, you look at Tua don't have the strongest arm strength. He could hit some guys deep, but he underthrows a lot of guys when you throw it deep. But over the middle of the field, he's really good. Yeah. And the way the Niners controlled it to where, like you said, those layer passes, it's hard to throw it over a linebacker to your receiver and complete a pass. It's just, you got to be a special quarterback to do it. So the game plan was beautiful, and the way it was executed that's how you have to play the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, it was the irresistible force meets the immovable object, right? Because the Dolphins are the best in the middle of the field offense in the entire league, and the 49ers defense is the best at stopping it. And, it was 59% of the passes that Tua Tagovailoa throws are over the middle of the field. Jimmy Garoppolo was at about 57%. That just shows how much this Dolphins offense relied on going over the middle. And Fred Warner's a big reason why they stopped it, but also Dre Greenlaw being able to run with Tyreek Hill all the way across on a drag route and stop him, and even then stop himself from just suplexing Tyreek Hill, taking him to Suplex City. He held up, and he just said he just wanted him to know, hey, if I wanted to end you, I could have. I thought that was very cool, but you're right. This linebacker group was fantastic. Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead got it done on the defensive line. And then we had some great secondary performances as well. I'm looking forward to talking about that a little bit later. But the big story comes from one of the littlest guys on the team, number 13, Brock Purdy. Didn't know his number was going to be called, but Jimmy Garoppolo breaks his foot. Good news as far as Jimmy Garoppolo goes, 7 to 8 weeks potentially. There is a chance for return. But Purdy comes in there, and I don't know how you felt about it, Warren, but when I watched him, the first thing I thought was, you know what, this moment's not too big for him.
No.
He stepped in there. He was not a deer in headlights. He was a guy who had full control. He understood what it was about. He had moxie, and he went in there and he made the throws that he needed to make. Kyle tried to get him, get that run game going, run on first down, run on second down for his first drive. And then he's forced with a third and medium. And he gets in there and he fires the football and he gets a first down. And I thought that set the tone for how the rest of the game was going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you close your eyes and you put the number 10 on him, he looked like Jimmy G out there. I mean, the guy, he wasn't afraid of the moment. I mean, he went out there in a tough situation, in a big game, and he played well. He played confident, and that's what you want from your backup. And I mean, I remember watching him in the preseason this year, and I specifically against Houston, he made some really nice throws in that game. And that stuck out to me going into the year because you never know if you're going to need these backup quarterbacks or not.
Exactly.
With the way these quarterbacks get hurt. So how he performed against Miami was I was at first when Jimmy G got hurt, I was afraid. I was just like,
right.
The season might be over. And I hate to waste this type of season with how it was looking. And he just came in and he didn't flinch. The offense looked like Jimmy was still on the field. So I really feel like he's been prepared for this moment. I mean, 4 years at Iowa State, and he was no slouch at Iowa State. You know, since he left Iowa State, I haven't heard about Iowa State at all. And during his 4 years at Iowa State, you would hear about Iowa State. They were competitive. They were a team that they weren't competing for national championships, but they were in the mix, and that's squarely because of Brock Purdy. So I was super, super impressed by what he did to come in a tough spot, losing Jimmy G and performing the way he did in a big game.
Yeah, this is a dude that's got no lack of confidence. You're talking about a guy that was a high school player of the year in Arizona, a guy recruited by Alabama, but turns down Alabama. And, he's not the only one. Brandon Ayuk also turned down Alabama, funnily, before he went to, Arizona State. So there's a lot of things, that are about Brock Purdy that just shows he has a lot of confidence and belief in himself. And I thought that, your initial thoughts on what happened when you heard Jimmy was out was my thoughts as well as like, oh no, we have a championship caliber defense. We have a really good football team. without Jimmy Garoppolo, without Trey Lance, we might not be able to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then I think what happened during this game, and I'm gonna keep it as honest as I can, is I started to have a little bit of belief. Well, wait, if Brock can do this, we have a chance to win football games. If Brock can continue to do this, but we got to keep in mind as well, because even though Brock Purdy had himself one heck of a game, and he did, and he beat zero blitzes, he did a lot of really good things in this game. There is also chances when quarterbacks come in and they're not expected to, and they play really well, and then the next week when it's their time to start from the beginning, they don't do good. They're like relievers.
Correct.
So I want to give it time to see how Brock does, because this is going to be the time he's getting all the reps, he's getting all the attention, as far as in practice and game planning and everything. Will he start to think about that? Will that overwhelm him? That's number one. And then number two, now a defense is going to prepare for Brock Purdy's strengths, Brock Purdy's weaknesses, and then Tampa Bay is no slouch. Are they going to come in with a game plan to take away Brock Purdy? I think they're going to put it all on Brock Purdy to win the football game. I think they're going to come in, try to take away McCaffrey, try to take away Jordan Mason running the football, and say, Brock Purdy, you're going to have to beat us, and we're going to give you a variety of different looks. We're not going to simplify it like Miami did, going zero blitz and allowing you to read man coverage. We're going to give you a variety of different things to look at, and let's see how you handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like these next few weeks, that's going to be the telling part about it. Let's see how he performs the next few weeks, because when you get inserted into a game as abruptly as he did when the injury like that happens, the other team hasn't got a chance to game plan for you. They haven't got a chance to prepare for you. Half of these guys probably on Miami's defense didn't even know who he is.
Yeah.
So now, let's say he puts 3 weeks of film out there. Now you get defensive coordinators. They have something to watch. You're on film. Now they get to learn your tendencies, what you're about, what's your strengths, what your weaknesses. And then now you might get exploited.
Yep.
And in the playoffs, you just amplify that times 10. Like the playoffs it's just a whole nother season. It's different football to watch. So I'm super confident from what I've seen in this short little sample size we've seen for Brock Purdy, but I want to see if he can progress. To me, a big litmus test for him is going to be, can he win in Seattle? I mean, for Niner quarterbacks, that's been a place where you go and you die. It's a tough place to play, especially in front of that crowd where it's raucous. They're a good team this year. Let's face it. Nobody thought Seattle would be in the position they are right now. Seattle is, one game behind us, I believe, or 2 games behind us?
Yeah, they're a game overall in the record, but because the 49ers hold a victory over them, it's like, 1.5.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're close into us into the standings, but I would love to see Brock Purdy go to Seattle, perform well, get the win, and that will tell me a lot about this young rookie.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out real quick. I mean, the one thing that we do know is Brock Purdy's going to be the starting quarterback against Tampa Bay and against Seattle. That is for sure. If he's not playing up to par in those two matchups, we will have a different conversation about a different type of quarterback, because I think the 49ers would have to make some sort of a move,
right,
whether that's Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers or whoever else. I think the hope is that it's going to be Brock Purdy, because he already understands the offense. He has the confidence of the team already. It just makes it easier. But right now, I mean, we just don't know. There's so much unknown with Brock Purdy. I like what I saw, but that doesn't mean it's going to translate. I hope it does. Don't get me wrong. I hope he goes out there, lights it up, lights Tampa Bay up, or at least does, a good enough performance, 23 points or so, wins the football game. I think everyone would feel good about Purdy. And you're right about how important that Seattle game is. The 49ers win the next 2 games. The 49ers are clinching a playoff spot. Like, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So that's how important these are. And I think if he gets a win over the Buccaneers, the confidence level of Brock Purdy is going to shoot through the roof. And this is not a guy that lacks confidence. Guys don't turn and do those type of end zone celebrations. The one he throws at Kyle Juszczyk, he turns around. He's already celebrating before Juszczyk even gets in. The dude has got swag. He's got some moxie, and I think I like it.
He does. He got plenty of swag, and I mean, we're going to need that, I mean, to me, it shows that he's comfortable. He knows what he's doing. The moment's not too big. And like I said, you have 4 years at a major university. Like, you're ready for this. At the end of the day, it's football. Football is football. Yeah, a lot of the athletes out there are bigger, stronger, faster, but it's football. And he has one of the best offensive coaches in the league, and he has the best weapons in the league.
Yeah.
So it's like, just slow down, get into your weapons, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah, I mean, you could be the biggest, strongest, fastest athlete at quarterback, but if you can't process information tremendously quick, you're going to be an average quarterback in this league. You can be a small guy that can process really quickly and get the ball out, and you're going to be more successful than that guy that can't.
Right.
It's all about processing information. It's all about making the right timely decisions. That's more important than the biggest, strongest guy that plays in the NFL. And I think Brock Purdy can process pretty quickly, but we're going to see how that translates in the next few weeks. One thing that came out was that Jimmy Garoppolo could be back for the playoffs. Adam Schefter said it's not a Liz Frank injury, 7 to 8 weeks, which comes around the divisional round. Now, Greg Papa was peddling some stuff on KMBR that maybe it was even 5 weeks. But when Kyle Shanahan spoke to the media, he said it's a extremely outside chance of Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. What are your thoughts about Jimmy's chances of coming back? And then, if Jimmy is able to come back in the divisional round, that means the 49ers won a playoff game. Are you ready to insert him back in over Brock Purdy?
I'm conflicted. Honestly, that move's going to come down to momentum, how the team looks, how we enter the playoff, and how we won that playoff game.
Right.
Because if we have all the momentum in the world, Purdy has stepped in, he's taken his team by the horns, and he's the man, he's leading it, and the team looks like they haven't fell off or they haven't changed a bit, and it continues to go forward week after week into the playoffs with no drop off. I'm gonna want Purdy to stay at the helm. Let's see how far he can take this. Now, Jimmy G, we've seen what Jimmy G can do. We've seen Jimmy G is good enough to get us to the Super Bowl. If we could get him back for the run, the Super Bowl run, it's tough, man, because we know he could get us there. And in the NFC, there's not really a team I fear in the NFC. You have the Philadelphia Eagles that they're the number one team in the NFC, but they don't put fear in me. Yeah. There's not a team in this conference that puts fear in me. But if we make it to the Super Bowl, we got to face the Chiefs. We got to face Buffalo. And you may have to duel it out in one of these games. Like, I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to be up to it. I don't know if he's able to do it. But that situation is just going to be a feel situation, and that's what we have Shanahan for. Like, Shanahan, he has to make the right call in that situation, But to me, it's going to come down to, momentum, where the team is at, and it's going to be a gut call for Shanahan.
Yeah, I think you're saying it the right way. If they limp into the playoffs, they go 2-3, but they get into the playoffs and, happen to win in the wild card round by like a field goal, but their offense was sputtering at 16-13 or something like that. Then Jimmy Garoppolo could be a welcome sight for the 49ers. Right. Not only does he give you that leadership and the playoff, experience, but he also could galvanize that locker room.
Absolutely.
They love Jimmy Garoppolo, and him coming back could be just a, kind of the spark that you need to get them going. So I do believe that, there are situations where it makes sense for Jimmy, and then there's situations for Brock. If the 49ers go 3-2 or 4-1 over the remaining 5 games, and Brock Purdy is helping this offense put up 20 to 23 points a game, and they're winning by double digits like they've been doing this year, then I think you bring Jimmy back as the backup, because when it comes down to it, he's a better option than Josh Johnson. And heaven forbid something happens to Brock Purdy, you can roll with Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think having Jimmy as an outside opportunity to come back in the playoffs is great news for the 49ers. But I think the rest of it is just figured out over the next 5 games and how the 49ers perform with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. And if he does a great job, I hope he lights it up. I hope they go for over 30 points. And when we get to that situation, they're bringing Jimmy back just to be a backup, because I think that, I just want this team to win, and I don't really care who's pulling the trigger.
Right. And it also comes down to what Jimmy you're getting back as well.
Yeah,
you're going to want Jimmy playing like the Jimmy he was playing at and the level he was playing at before he got hurt. He's playing the best football of his career. But when he comes back from his injury, you don't know if he's going to be second guessing himself. Like, the injury's in the back of his mind. We don't know if he's going to be fully healthy. He's still dealing with it a little bit. You don't want that Jimmy. You want the Jimmy that's free of pain. Like I said, playing like the Jimmy that was before he got hurt. So that's what you got to just, all that plays into it if he's healthy enough to come back. But if Purdy is just balling out like we both hope he is, let's ride the wave.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If Jimmy comes back, because Brock is struggling, and Jimmy's going to have a lot of money on his mind. He knows that if he takes his team to a Super Bowl and wins, the 49ers can't hold on to him. They would have to offer him a lot of money to get him come back. So that means he gets to go out there as a free agent Super Bowl winning quarterback. That means no, that number's not good. Add a 0 to it. That's what Jimmy and Don Yee can do, and that would be a huge motivation for him to do that. But that's something for another day. And the only reason we can even talk about that is because the 49ers have a championship defense, Warren. This defense is ridiculous. We talked about it a little bit with how they played the Dolphins, but the stretch that they've been on, from shutting out the Saints to holding 4 straight teams scoreless in the second half, it all came to an end, of course, in Miami. But anytime they put up a graphic and it says that you're about to match something that was done before the merger, 1938, 1939 was the last time a team shut somebody out in the second half for 5 straight games. Like, you're in rare air. And I think this 49ers defense is in that category.
Man, they are. They're in rare air. I mean, you can't say nothing bad about the defense. I mean, what can you say that's bad? I mean, I'm a big Niner fan. Going into this game, I was afraid. I thought we were going to lose this game.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I if we would have did a show last week, I'd have predicted us to lose. I was fully afraid of this team because of the speed. I mean, with the speed with Waddle and Tyreek, it's one of the fastest teams that's ever been in the NFL. And I felt like it was just going to be nothing but problems for us. And just the way the week played out for the Niners, I think it worked out perfectly with how Shanahan called out the D-line, and the way they responded and the way Bosa responded. And it's like, man, dude, Bosa's a beast every week, but the performance he put on against Miami, it's like, okay, this is defensive player of the year. This is defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa. But the play of this defense, man, is just, I go into every game now and I'm just like, this team that we're playing, they can't do nothing against our defense. Like, we're going to completely shut them out, smother them. And DeMeco Ryans, what he's doing, it's just, it's amazing to see. It's amazing to watch week in and week out. Like, honestly, the only offense I fear now in the NFL is the Chiefs.
Yeah, the way that you can beat the 49ers is by running the football. Miami is not very good at running the football, and the 49ers stuffed it. But if you go back and you think it was Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, his running is really what helped, them win, of course, the monsoon as well. Atlanta Falcons, though, they ran the football on them. And then the Kansas City Chiefs found a way to run on the outside using, the jet sweeps and that sort of thing. And that's how they were able to establish their run game. 49ers come in and shut you down and make you one-dimensional. They absolutely clamp you with the different types of coverages that they run, and then the unique scheme that they use while putting pressure on you. They run a lot of different concepts that throw teams off, and they're willing to adjust at the line of scrimmage as you're motioning, as you're doing all those things. I thought this was going to be a tough one for them just because of how much motion you were going to get from Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel motions more than Kyle Shanahan, and that's saying a lot because Shanahan has led the league since he started being the head coach for the 49ers. So I think that overall this defense is spectacular. I now put them as one of the top defenses in the last 20 years. I think they may be the best defense in the last 20 years. That means they're better than the 2019 49ers defense, better than the 2011 49ers defense. I mean, they're in that category. You can start mentioning them amongst the Tampa Bay Bucks in the early 2000s, the 2000 Ravens. They're just in that category. It's hard for me to say they're the best defense in the history of the San Francisco 49ers because I do believe the 1984 defense is still the best right now, but they are getting to that area, and that's saying a lot. When you give up just over 15 points a game, that means you have a chance to win every single game you play in the NFL.
Right.
And that is crazy to say, thinking about where we're at with the current landscape in the NFL and how everything is based on good offense.
Yeah, this is a scoring league. I mean, the league wants offense to put up points. I mean, that's just the state of football that we're in. But, I mean, this defense, it's impressive for them to be performing at the level they are with not even being at full strength.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the injuries. I mean, you don't have Emmanuel Mosley. You don't have Javon Kinlaw. We've had Armstead out for almost all year. And you look at the way they're performing, it's just like, man, DeMeco Ryans should have had a head coaching job yesterday.
Yeah.
It's the guy is doing a brilliant job. He's doing a brilliant job, and I would hate to lose him. after this season. But I mean, you can't keep a guy like that and what he's doing. I mean, it's just amazing. And what I want to see just to complete this is just finish the season with a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
Just finish the job with the defense this special. You got to finish the job.
If I'm this defense, I'm excited about Brock Purdy. Now, I know you want, the quarterback in the offense because that's going to help you win. But imagine the type of respect they're going to get, because that's one of the things that helps the Bucks in 2000 and the 2000 or in the early 2000 and the 2000 Ravens is that Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson were their quarterbacks. Imagine this. 49ers win a Super Bowl, and their quarterback is Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead can walk into any room and say, nah, you won with Dilfer.
Facts.
He was legit. Facts. We had Brock freaking Purdy, okay?
Mr. Irrelevant.
And I think that's kind of something interesting. Maybe that can galvanize them even more, which I don't know if that's possible because that defense is great.
It is.
And one of the reasons they're great is because of number 97 out there getting sackaroonies, Nick Bosa. Boy, has Nick Bosa really came on the scene. You mentioned it a little bit when you were discussing him earlier. But, a 3-sack performance in this one, like you said, Kyle Shanahan called out the defense. He said he thought they would laugh about it. They did not. And then Nick Bosa walked up to him and said, hey, man, don't talk S about me anymore. And I love that. And I think that Bosa's coming on strong right now. And I think the re-addition of Eric Armstead helped him as well. His first sack was on the stunt. Second sack was on the stunt, where Armstead pulls guys away, including the center. He loops around and gets inside and gets a sack. But Bosa's been a closer over the last several weeks. Mm-hmm. He is just playing at an all-time high.
Yeah, the dude is playing at a special level. And, I mean, you look at where he's at. He's leading the league in sacks. He's at 14.5 sacks. Yeah. And he missed the game.
A game and a half.
Right. Like that's what people don't understand. It's like, you look at the rest of these guys' stats, they haven't missed a game.
Right.
So how is he not Defensive Player of the Year? I mean, the guy is coming into the season, we expected this. I mean, he came in like immaculate shape and he looked great, so we expected this. Like, now it's just he's being unleashed on the rest of the league. So I definitely, if he has one more, 3-sack game, that sack record could be in jeopardy. There's how many games we got left? We got about 6 games, 5 games?
5 games left
on the schedule.
Yeah.
He's sitting at 14.5. I think the sack record is 23 sacks? 22 sacks?
22. Yeah, I think it's 22 or 22 and a half.
22 and a half. He could get really close to that. So, but I definitely expect him to win the award at the end of the season. He's just having an amazing year.
Yeah, I think the sack record is, within reach, and you're gonna have a stationary target this week with Tom Brady.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna be in the pocket. They're not gonna have Tristan Wirfs. They're gonna be struggling. Their other tackle held on every single play against the Saints. That's gonna not happen again. And you start thinking about it. There's gonna be opportunities for him to make plays over the next 5 weeks. And I think the 49ers defense is going to have big performances. And with Eric Armstead being back, you can't have as much focus on Nick Bosa. But I do think that sack record is in jeopardy. But overall, it's just been a great performance. And it's the first year, really, that he's had to come into a season where he's not had to worry about, getting healthy from an injury.
Right.
He's just got to prepare all year for football. He had a little bit of a groin thing. Now he has a little bit of a hamstring irritation. 49ers' favorite thing right now is irritation. Christian McCaffrey, knee irritation. Nick Bosa, hamstring irritation. I don't know what that is. Last week I was down from throat irritation. But it's just something that's going on right now. But I think that Nick Bosa is going to have a huge end of the season, and I think they're going to make some big-time plays. But a guy that's been flying under the radar, Warren, playing on the outside, and he shouldn't be able to fly under the radar because Charvarius Ward plays on the other side. So you would think a defense wants to come out and attack your weakness in Deommodore Lenoir. But Deommodore Lenoir not only held up against the Miami Dolphins and their tremendous speed, but he also had an interception in the game. I just wanted to go and talk a little bit about Deommodore Lenoir, get your feelings on him, because I think Demo has really stepped up and been he's not Emmanuel Mosley, but a solid option opposite of Charvarius Ward. And I think he's just what the doctor ordered for this 49ers defense.
Yeah, he's playing well. I mean, when Mosley went down, as a Niner fan, we were all worried. We didn't know who's going to fill those shoes and who's going to step in. We didn't know if Womack was going to go outside. We didn't know if Ambry would step up. We didn't know what was going to go on and who's going to step in the shoes of Mosley. And he's played phenomenal. You know what I mean? And I since he's came into the league, even in college, I was really down on the guy. I had a cousin that played at Oregon with him, and my cousin was very critical of him. And I remember games where Brandon Ayuk was abusing him at Arizona
Right.
State. And when we drafted him, I was like, man, that's that guy that our receiver was killing. I was just like, ugh, like I don't know if we should make this move, but when he came in and he played with us last year, he had his moments. He had his ups and he had his downs. And this year, he's played beautiful. I think he's learned from what his mistakes was last year. And he's really developing into a corner we can depend on. So I'm very encouraged with what Diamador looks like right now, because this is what we need. We needed somebody to step up in the shoes of Mosley, because Mosley was having his best year of his career.
Yeah.
So I love what I'm seeing. I love what I'm seeing for Diamador Lenoir. I hope he keeps it up, because from here on out, it only gets tougher. You got Lockett coming up, you got Godwin coming up, you have Mike Evans coming up, Devontae Adams. So I hope he can keep it going, but I love what I see from him so far.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. And he was somebody that when I watched his film when he was coming out in the draft, I was actually a fan of. I thought Diamador Lenoir was a player that the 49ers could target late in the draft and that he would be a good option for them. They did. And then, when he first came out in the OTAs, he got all the hype for everything that he was doing. And then it seemed like he kind of cooled off, and he started to struggle. They always thought they were going to put him in the slot, though. They never did. And then all of a sudden this year he goes in the slot. But now he's been thrust to the outside with the injury, and I thought he's held up pretty good, because this would have been the perfect opportunity for a team to go in there and attack him, especially with all that speed with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and just all the guys that they have. They haven't been able to do it, and I think that's good news for the 49ers. I think Diamador Lenoir is very physical. He doesn't miss tackles, and right now he's starting to make plays. There was a play in the game where Tyreek Hill misread the coverage and went a little bit too far upfield. Diamador Lenoir drove on the football and almost made an interception. He ended up getting the one off Hill's hand, but earlier in the game, it's just those kinds of things. You see that the intelligence level's there, the understanding of his defensive responsibilities are there, and that's really what you want, is the guy to be in the right spot at the right time, and Demo's having that right now. Now, is he playing like a Pro Bowl caliber? And no, he's not, but he's playing good enough. He's serviceable right now, and I think he's got some upside, which I'm excited about. But I did want to ask you one thing. It's not about Lenoir, but I was thinking about this. What was your thoughts on the 49ers signing Jack Rabbit Jenkins?
You know what? I'd like the signing of Janoris Jenkins. Janoris Jenkins, to me, was the guy that was always talented coming out of Florida. Even out of Florida, he was a shutdown corner, lockdown corner. You could play him man-to-man against the other team's best receiver. So I was really in favor of the signing. Honestly, I was confused why he wasn't even on the roster. Because to me, Janoris Jenkins, he deserved to be in the league. He deserves to be on the roster. Everything I've seen with him, I think he may have had some off the field issues. I'm not too sure on that. That might be the reason why he may not have been on a roster. But for on the field, what I've seen from him, even from his days at Florida, he's always been like one of the best athletes on the field, super aggressive, and a lockdown corner. So I like the addition to it, because it gives us some more depth.
Yeah, it's a guy that creates turnovers. He makes a lot of interceptions. He can play man coverage, which D'Amico Ryans likes to do. They've been trying to bring him in for a long time. He was holding out for a 53-man roster spot. They've finally talked him into going on the practice squad. And now he's insurance in case you suffer an injury, or if you decide, when we get to the playoffs, if something happens in a game, we don't want an Ombre Thomas coming in. We want a guy with more experience, like, Jackrabbit, or even somebody else. It could have been Dante Johnson or whatever. I think it's just one of those things where the 49ers want to have that confidence, that they have veterans that they can count on in the biggest moments. And I think that's what they're preparing for. So I'm interested to see what happens with Janoris Jenkins moving forward, and whether he ends up making an impact on the 49ers in 2022. But the good news is they have him there just in case. And I think that's very, very important.
I agree.
Now, the 49ers' next 5 games are very interesting, and this is going to, it's all going to play out, and the 49ers are either going to make the playoffs or not, depending on how these games go. But Warren, I'm wondering, how do you think the 49ers record is going to look like over the last 5 games? They've just came off they're on a 5-game winning streak, but they've got some tough matchups, and of course we've talked about the Buccaneers are up next, and then Seattle. That's a quick turnaround Sunday to Thursday. Those ones are coming. And then you got Christmas Eve with the Washington Commanders, New Year's Day with the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, I keep calling them Los Angeles. And then you've got the Arizona Cardinals to finish out the season. How do you think this goes? The 49ers are they winning all five? Are they, going 4-1, 3-3, or are they going to struggle? What do you think?
I think the Niners are fully capable of winning all 5 games. When I look at the remaining 5 games, not one of the teams really scared me. The Seattle game is one that worries me a little bit because it's just our history in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. And they've had our number up there, when we go up there. But if that's the only game out of these 5 that would give me pause, I didn't know the Commanders was 7-5. That's what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm actually impressed that they're 7-5. I don't really pay too much attention to the Commanders. So seeing them at 7-5, it's like, okay, that could be interesting. But I mean, they come out here to Levi's. I don't think we'll have too much of a problem with them. The Raider game, I feel like it's going to be interesting as well. Every time we play with the Raiders, there's always a lot of emotions, because that's our rival. That's a team that used to be across the bay. Now they're in Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas. And then they have probably the best receiver in the league, Devontae Adams. The guy just makes plays on everybody. So out of these 5 games, if I had to predict it, I have the Niners winning all 5 games. With, like I said, a couple of those games being closer than what I expect, with the Seattle game and the Las Vegas game.
Yeah, I think that, the 49ers are going to probably, depending on how Brock Purdy does against Tampa Bay, be favored to win all these football games. I think the game against Seattle is interesting.
Yeah.
I think, number one, the 49ers are actually a bad matchup for Seattle. I think if the Seattle Seahawks don't have Kenneth Walker, I think that'll really hurt them. But what the 49ers do on offense and defense makes it tough for what Seattle wants to do with their scheme. And so I think that's actually a tough matchup, but I don't know what I'm going to get out of Brock Purdy. If I'm getting what I saw last week against Miami from Brock Purdy, you're right. 5-0 is definitely possible. At worst, you're thinking 3-2. You know what I mean? That's at worst. I think where it gets interesting is if you do lose that game to Seattle, and all of a sudden Seattle pulls up even with you. It's one of those situations where that Washington Commanders game becomes very important because the Commanders are sitting there with a chance for the wild card. You do not want to lose to Seattle and then lose to Washington because that could potentially put you out of the playoffs. You lose the division lead to Seattle and then you lose the wild card positioning to the Washington Commanders. So I think those 2 games are very important. Of course, winning against the Buccaneers is important, but I think those 2 right there are going to signal how the rest of the season is going to go. And if the 49ers get the first 3 wins, I think that you will see them for sure be able to beat the Raiders. I just think they'll roll through that. And then I don't know what we're going to get against the Cardinals if the 49ers decide to rest their starters, which I would expect they would probably do, knowing that once you win the division, you're going to be at 3 if you beat Tampa Bay. If you beat Tampa Bay, you're going to be the 3rd team in the division, once you win your division, because then that other team can't catch you. So I think these are very important games. It's kind of funny. You beat the Bucks, you secure that the NFC West winner is going to get the 3 seed. You beat the Seahawks, you secure that you're going to win the NFC West. You beat the Commanders, and you secure yourself a playoff spot. I think it's that simple for the 49ers. And I think it's an interesting thing, but you're right. 5-0 with a Brock Purdy like we saw last week, possible. I think at worst 3-2, just because of how great the defense is.
Yeah, I think you highlighted it best. It's going to come down to what type of Purdy we get. If you win these next 2 games, it's pretty much downhill from there. I don't think the Commanders have enough to come into Levi's and beat us, especially offensively and the way this defense is playing. I don't feel like they have a shot. And then the Raiders are a different team. I think their season took a turn when they got that win in Seattle. I think that win for them, it changed their whole outlook. So to me, that's what makes them a little bit nervous because you don't know that team is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
So you never know what you're going to get, especially on New Year's Day when you go to Las Vegas. But I agree with you. I mean, if you take care of business against Tampa, you take care of business against Seattle, and then the Commanders. I mean, it's pretty much downhill from there. It's time to get ready for the playoffs.
It is. It's a wrap. You know what I mean? It's a wrap. One thing that's going to come up here in the next several weeks, you have Trey Lance, he's on IR. You have Elijah Mitchell on IR, and you have Javon Kinlaw on IR. You have 2 spots left to bring back from IR. You've used 6. You have 8 spots. Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan has said, is not a possibility. Of course, there's a lot of people that still say no, he is a possibility. So let's just ignore Kyle Shanahan's comments and let's just say you can't trust him with injuries or whatever. And then Elijah Mitchell, I think they put him on IR thinking they were going to bring him back. And then Javon Kinlaw, he said last week, was getting close. Who of these 3 do you bring back if they're all eligible?
So the one I say it's guaranteed to come back, I would say Javon Kinlaw. That's the one I would say you have to bring him back. I mean, the game is one in the trenches. To bring a fresh body like that before you go into the playoffs and a guy that's that big, you need that. You need that for what the playoffs is going to be. It's a very physical time of the year. So I would say for sure you bring back Javon Kinlaw. Now you go to Lance and you go to Mitchell. Mitchell, to me, it all depends on Jordan Mason. What we've seen from Jordan Mason, like, I understand why the fan base is so crazy. I mean, the guy, man, he runs hard. Man, he runs hard, and it's like that dude finishes runs like I want to see more Jordan Mason. I mean, right. I don't blame the fan base. Like he looks special, man. He really does, and I'm sign me up. I want to see more Jordan Mason. I'm sorry. So if we could get more Jordan Mason, we really won't need Elijah Mitchell. Even though Elijah Mitchell, he looked special this season, and it just sucks that he can't stay healthy. It hurts me because I know the guy could put forth a effort that could win us a playoff game, win us one of these games down the stretch. And, he's just a great compliment back to have, but you just don't know how healthy he's going to be. Let's say we activate him and he gets hurt again. It's a waste of a spot, So to me, he's more on the outside. Trey Lance, what I'm so confused about with this is the reports was it was an 8-week injury, right? So
it was 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 month injury?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see him on the sidelines, he's walking around, he's throwing a football, he's not in the cast, and it's like, all right, where's he at? Where's he at in his rehab? Where's he at in his development? If we have a shot, of course I understand Shanahan, you're not going to tell the rest of the nation he has a shot to coming back because it's very competitive. It's gamemanship, But if you have a shot to bring Trey Lance back, it's almost the same as with Jimmy G. It's where's the team at? Is the team, like you said, are they limping into the playoffs? Do they need like a spark? Like it's going to be interesting. Like that one is real interesting because when he first got hurt, the rumors was if the Niners make it deep into the playoffs, Trey Lance can come back. You know what I mean? And so if you have a shot to bring Trey Lance back, I don't know if you do it or not because, one, he doesn't have enough experience. We really didn't get to see Trey Lance this year. We didn't know if he's ready for prime time. He's ready to be the starting quarterback of this team. We know Jimmy is. We're about to find out about Brock Purdy. But if Trey Lance becomes healthy and he's healthy enough to play, it's just a tough decision to make. It's a super tough decision to make.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, circumstance is going to be a big part of this. And I think one circumstance is Hassan Ridgeway's out 6 to 8 weeks. That means Javon Kinlaw becomes important for this 49ers defense. That increased his importance. If a Ridgeway is healthy, you might not. You know what? I choose this guy and this guy over because I have other guys. Now, what you said about Jordan Mason is true. Jordan Mason looks the part. He's fantastic. He's running hard. But I'm going to say something that 49er fans don't want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyways. Elijah Mitchell's better than Jordan Mason right now. I know he's not healthy, but when he is, Elijah Mitchell takes those runs to the house. Remember, it was a George Kittle hold away from a touchdown run of plus 40.
True.
That's the difference between Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason, is there's explosiveness down the field, not the 10 to 15-yard split, which Jordan Mason's fantastic. And I love him. Don't get me wrong. I'm cool with him if that's what they decide. But Elijah Mitchell as a 1-2 punch with Christian McCaffrey is still better than the one we have right now. As far as Trey Lance goes, it's difficult because Kyle Shanahan saying, when you say 4 to 6 months, we're on the 4-month side of it. Yeah. We're not on the 6-month side of it. And you're talking about a guy then that didn't play at all. Now, if you're not going to have Jimmy Garoppolo come back, I'm in the same category. If Jimmy can't come back, but Trey can, then I'm doing that because I think Trey Lance is a better option than Josh, Johnson as the backup for Brock Purdy. And I'm just going to stay consistent. I think the 49ers, if they're smart, are going to keep all these options open. Don't put Jimmy Garoppolo on the IR. Leave Trey Lance as a chance, and then you just play it by ear. Which one, if Jimmy gets close, you go with Jimmy because he played so recently. His injury wasn't so intense.
Right.
I mean, he's not having to have surgery, right? He's having a broken bone in his foot. Trey tore everything and had to have surgery.
Right.
There's a big difference between the two injuries. And I've heard people say, well, he's had longer to recover. Well, he needs longer to recover because it's a worse injury. So I think that you just kind of let things play out.
Yeah.
But the 49ers are in a little bit of a conundrum here because they have 3 players. Because I do believe if Trey was healthy, they'd love to bring him back. They have 3 players they want to bring back and only 2 spots in which to do it. If you would have told them that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to get hurt, they probably wouldn't have put Elijah Mitchell on the IR. But I do believe that when they put Elijah Mitchell on the IR, they had an understanding that either Trey Lance or Javon Kinlaw weren't coming back. They already knew, so they probably already know right.
So you would bring Trey Lance back in the backup role?
I'm not starting him over Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy's winning in the playoffs, I mean, think about it. Trey Lance has been out since week 2.
Right.
If Brock Purdy's won you football games to get you in the playoffs, I'm supposed to go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to turn it over to Trey, who hasn't played any football. And my thought would be like this with any quarterback.
Right.
That would have been like the Patriots going, you know what? Let's go ahead and put Drew Bledsoe back in there for Tom Brady.
Right.
Like, you just can't do it at that point. It's nothing against Trey. It's nothing against his abilities. He's fantastic. He's got all kinds of abilities. And I'm saying this with Jimmy, too. I'm consistent. If Brock Purdy's playing good enough, you roll with Brock Purdy because he's the one that's got the cohesiveness and he's the one that's winning. Now, if he's struggling, that's another story.
Right.
If Brock's struggling and you're barely winning and Kyle has Trey to come back but not Jimmy, and he says, you know what? Trey gives us a better opportunity than Brock Purdy, then I got to respect that. We're going with Trey Lance. I'm okay with that. But if you don't know for sure, no, you roll with the horse that you know already, not the one that's never played in a playoff game, that hasn't played since September. That just makes it tough.
I feel like it's a very fragile situation because to me, I feel like it's when you're talking about quarterbacks, like I feel like the subtlest things can ruin their career, and so it sets up as a very interesting situation future wise for the Niners because if he's able to come back and let's say we keep Purdy in, and let's say Purdy takes us to the Super Bowl, and let's say wins or even loses, for next year. You're in a situation where like who's starting now? You know what I mean? And then is it Trey Lance? Is it Purdy? And then things like this could break Trey Lance. You gave up so much for Trey Lance. And and I almost started feeling like it's the Washington Redskins situation when they had the RG3 and Cousins situation.
Yeah.
And so it's a real fragile situation, and it's if it's not handled right, it could be disastrous future wise.
It could. I mean, the thing is though, if and I don't believe Trey Lance is fragile by any means, but if Trey Lance's confidence is that fragile that he can't handle competition from Brock Purdy, he was never going to be an elite quarterback in this league. He will take on that challenge, and that's a great problem. Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl. You know what you have next year? You have an old-fashioned Steve Young versus Joe Montana competition, right? Or you have a championship caliber quarterback that still comes in and has competition. Because at that point, right, that's what Brock would be if he won a Super Bowl.
Right.
But those 2 guys, that's a good problem to have. 2 young studs at that point. Now, we're putting the cart way before the horse. Brock Purdy's got to win some football games.
100%.
But I think that, you're just, as situation goes, you just don't worry about those things. You just try to win whatever games you can win, and you hope you go in there. I know I do. I hope Brock Purdy wins a freaking Super Bowl.
I agree.
I hope he goes in there and lights things up, and the only thing we're talking about is, hey, Josh Johnson going to be hanging out on the sidelines for the whole game or what? Because I think that's just kind of what I want. I think it's fun to talk about Trey possibly coming back or Jimmy possibly coming back. Those give us hope.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, we need Brock Purdy to win football games.
I agree. We could leave that for the offseason. Hopefully that's a scenario we're dealing with. Purdy wins us the Super Bowl, and then we can deal with the drama later.
I won't.
But,
You know what? I won't be worried about the draft capital we gave up for Trey Lance if we're walking away with the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because that means mission accomplished. We won a Super Bowl in his rookie pay scale, and then what the 49ers decide after that, moving forward, will be what they decide. Of course, Trey Lance will still have a lot of value around the league,
right?
But why not go and roll with two young stud quarterbacks? Let them compete, and hey, whoever wins wins.
Right.
Now let's talk about a real stud quarterback as well, and that's Tom freaking Brady and the Bucks. They're going to be coming into town, and this is a huge matchup. They got a big win against the Saints. I don't know how they pulled that one out of their behind. But this is a really good defense, but their offense has been struggling more. What do you think about this Bucks team, and what do you think the 49ers need to do to go ahead and beat the Bucks?
This is a team I look at and they're struggling. I mean, they have no identity. They have no running game really. I mean, Fournette's been in and out of the lineup. They have a rookie running back in there that's he's doing
White.
Yeah, White. He's doing an okay job, and the offensive line is a mess. It's a patched up offensive line where they're struggling to protect Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the game last week against New Orleans has an underrated defense. That defense in New Orleans is legit. Like Shanahan said a couple weeks ago, if you turn on the film of that New Orleans defense, they have one of the best defenses in the league. And it really shows on film. They couldn't finish the game last week. They choked. Brady took them down. That's what Brady does. Great quarterbacks will kill you late. If you don't put them away, they'll kill you late. Projecting them against us, I think we have too much defensively for them to do that to us. I think we're going to completely dominate the game. I think Tampa Bay will have their moments. I mean, Brady's too good not to put a little bit of points on the board. But I don't fear them. I don't look at them as too much of a threat to this Niners team, just because defensively we're just so much. We're too much for teams to handle. And offensively, I expect Brock Purdy to continue what he showed against Miami. Yeah, he's going up against a better defense. This linebacker core that they have in Tampa Bay is special as well. But I think Shanahan will put together a game plan where Purdy's getting the ball out of there, getting into his weapons, and let his weapons make the plays.
Yeah, I think you said it. You were talking about the running game. And, one thing we talked about earlier was you have to be able to run the football to beat the San Francisco 49ers defense. And they're not going to be able to run the football. I mean, Leonard Fournette is not going to get this thing going. They're not going to run. And I think that's going to make a lot of opportunities for the 49ers to be able to play in the nickel. If you can have a nickel, back like Jimmy Ward out there and still stop the run, with 6 guys in the box or, 7 at some moments, I think that's going to make it really difficult for this Tampa Bay offense to get going. And that means clamps down on the other receivers. And, Mike Evans, Godwin, they got Julio Jones. I mean, they're not hurting.
No.
They've got skilled players. They got Cameron Brate playing tight end. Skilled players abound there in the, the passing game. But when passes are coming, it makes it a little bit easier to play defense. So then it's all about getting pressure. And when a pass is coming, you can pin your ears back and get after Tom Brady. And like we talked about earlier, he's a stationary target. That means Armstead, Bosa, and these guys are going to be able to get after him. And because he can't run, they don't have to worry about, rush lane integrity. They can just go. They can put multiple moves together. They can collapse the pocket on top of him. I think it's going to be difficult for Tom Brady. I think they're going to want to establish a quick passing game. And I think the 49ers are going to squat on a lot of those things early. And then when Tom Brady tries to go down the field, during the middle and into this football game, Nick Bosa and them are just going to come after him and cause some major problems. I won't be surprised to see Tom Brady throw some interceptions in this game as well, because he's not going to want to get hit. And I think the 49ers are going to hit him early and often.
Yeah, for the D-line, this is a stat game. Like you said, I mean, you have a tree back there. All respect to Tom Brady. He's had a great career, but, I mean, he's stationary, and this defensive line, they're going to eat. They're going to come after you. And when they see an offensive line that's just this bad, without their best player, I mean, it's just going to be fair game. I mean, they're just going to eat a whole game.
Yeah, and I mean, if the Tampa Bay offensive line was healthy, we might have a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Because an upright Tom Brady is dangerous. Still got the weapons out there, and the 49ers do have some spots that you can attack. We talked about Yammer Lenoir. Them getting a matchup of Mike Evans on Deommodore Lenoir could be something of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Lenoir's not big, and all the receivers for Tampa Bay are. But when you can give safety help, when you can disguise coverage and things, I think the 49ers are going to be, A-okay. But I
Yeah,
do want to get a
agree.
score prediction from you, Warren. 49ers versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How you see it going?
I got Purdy getting his first win over my GOAT. I have Brady as the GOAT. I know Niner fans won't like that too much.
Get out of here.
But yeah, I got the Niners taking care of business fairly easy. I have the Niners winning 24-9.
24-9. I like that. And you can't call him the GOAT because he's literally from the Bay Area, and he calls it San Fran. Nobody from the Bay Area is okay with him calling it San Fran. It's not San Fran. It's San Francisco. It's the Bay Area. It's ridiculous. Come on, Tom Brady. Sarah High School should be, disappointed in you for all this. Oh, but 24-9 is a good score for the 49ers. That'd be an impressive win for Brock Purdy, scoring 24 points against Tampa Bay's really good defense, and then holding Tom Brady, to 3 field goals?
3 field goals.
That's a great matchup. That would make me feel really good about this 49ers team moving forward. And I think if that was to come to pass, the 49ers are they're just right in the middle of it still. I think you'll start seeing Vegas believe in them even more. You'll start seeing, them stay up there in the power rankings because that would be an impressive performance.
Absolutely. And Sarah High School, I think they're doing well this year, huh?
Yeah.
I think they're in a state championship, aren't they?
Yeah, Sarah does good pretty much every year.
Every year?
I went and
Okay.
watched them a couple of times at Sac State, playing the state championship games.
Right.
And yeah, they're a good football team. They really are. Every single year, they produce at a high level. So yeah,
Okay.
one of the better schools in Northern
Okay.
California, Sarah High School.
Okay, I didn't know you always hear the De La Salles and now Folsom and everything
Yeah.
like that, and I didn't know Sarah was good year in and year out like that. But
year in and year out. It felt like they were there almost every single year at
okay,
the state games. They're a good football team. They're well coached. And they come from, a part where there's a lot of talent. They get a lot of really big football players. So
Okay.
yeah, they're an exciting team to watch. And
Oh.
we got the state championship games coming up here pretty soon.
yeah,
It's gonna be a lot
yeah,
of fun.
yeah. I'm excited for that. So
All right, Warren. Well, what a great episode this was. Thanks everyone for watching another episode of Cover 2. Looking forward to next week. Hopefully we're coming off another 49ers victory,
yes,
which would mean Brock Purdy has just taken down Warren's GOAT in Tom Brady and already put himself, up there as one of the best. I guarantee you Brock Purdy will not call it San Fran.
I hope not, man. I've never heard Brady even say San Fran.
I literally watched the video of him saying it today.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. But yeah, man, get ready for another week, another win. Like I say at the end of every podcast, let's just get through this healthy.
Yep, let's do it. Stay healthy, get the victory, and get on to Seattle for Thursday Night Football. Gonna be a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for watching. Go Niners.
Go Niners.